This is the 5th tutorial for Python. This time we'll be learning about loops. So this includes the for and while loops. First, let's talk about the while statement. You can make a block of code execute over and over again with a while statement. The code in a while clause will be executed as long as the while statement's condition is true. In the code, a while statement will always consist of the while keyword, a condition, a colon, and an indented block of code on the next line. The while clause is often called a while loop because it will repeat over and over again until the condition is false. So let me show you an example, right? So first let's define a variable. Let's say something, okay? That's my variable's name. And let's say something is equal to 0 at the moment, okay? Here I can say while something is lesser than 5, print Gen Z coders, right? And then over here I'd say something is equal to something plus 1. So first let me run this program and then try to kind of understand what exactly the program's doing, and then after that I will explain exactly what's happening, right? So let's run this. Okay. So as you can see, the output that we get is Gen Z coders printed 5 times, right? So you might want to pause this video, try to think about the entire thing, think about why it happens, alright? Okay, so let me explain this to you. First, we initialize a variable, okay? And this variable is called something. That's alright, yeah? And something is equal to 0 at the moment. So something is equal to nil almost. Now we say while something is lesser than 5. Now something is lesser than 5, that becomes our condition, right? So while something is lesser than 5, print Gen Z coders, and then something is equal to something plus 1. So when we say print Gen Z coders, what we're saying is that for the number of times, or while basically something is less than 5, while your variable is less than 5, while 0 in this case is less than 5, print Gen Z coders. That's what it means. And obviously, this is going to repeat over and over again because 0 will always be less than 5, right? Which is why if it was just 0, this loop would have continued for a long, long time. Now, on the other hand, what we've done is we've said something is equal to something plus 1. Now, when we do this, we say that first, what the program's going to do is it's going to go through while something is less than 5. Now, the first time it goes through it, obviously 0 is less than 5, which is why it'll print Gen Z coders the first time. After it prints Gen Z coders, the program executes this line of code, which is something is equal to something plus 1. So now something is no longer equal to 0. It'll be equal to 0 plus 1, which would be 1. So over here it becomes while something is less than 5. So while 1 is less than 5. Again, that clause is true. So again, it will print Gen Z coders. The next time it'll equal to something is equal to something plus 1. So it'll be 1 plus 1 this time, which is why it will become while 2 is lesser than 5 over here. Now this will continue, right? And so there will be a point where something is equal to something plus 1, where something is equal to 4, right? So 4 plus 1 would give you 5. Now when I say while something or while 5 is lesser than 5, that is automatically false then, right? Because 5 is not less than 5. So when I say something is less than 5, when I say 5 is less than 5, it's not going to execute the following code. So it's not going to print Gen Z coders, and it's immediately going to terminate the program, which is exactly what happens here, and why it prints Gen Z coders 5 times, not more, not less. 5 times exactly, right? Because the first one happens for 0, the second one happens for 1, the third is for 2, this one is for 3, and this one is for 4. And that's where it ends. There's no 5. Alright? Okay. Now, while loops can often also be used to create really, really annoying programs that just repeatedly ask you to type in something, okay? So let's try this out. Let's create a program that's quite annoying, okay? So let me just create a new one. Okay, so let's say my name is equal to a blank string, okay? So here I can say while name is not equal to your name, print what is your name. And then I can say my name is equal to input the parenthesis. Right, let's run this program and let's see what happens. Okay, let's save that as name. Okay, so first it asked me what's my name. Okay, let's say I put in Gen Z Coders. Again, it asked me what's my name. Okay, so again, let's put in something else this time. Let's put X. Let's put T. Let's put A, B, whatever. So whatever you put, it's gonna repeatedly ask you for your name over and over again. And this is solely because the clause, which is name is not equal to your name, hasn't been met. It's still true, right? Unless and until my input is equal to literally your name, the program is not going to terminate. So let's put your name and let's click enter, and look, it terminates, right? And that's because now this clause has been proven to be false. It is now false because my name is actually, it is equal to your name, which is why the program terminates. But this can be really, really annoying. I mean, imagine just the program constantly asking you, what is your name, what is your name? And obviously, because you don't know that you have to type in your name, you'll just keep entering a lot of different answers, and it would just become really chaotic, quite annoying, right? So until and unless you say your name, it really wouldn't have any, it wouldn't be beneficial in any way, okay? It would be pretty annoying. Anyway, that was just one example, okay? Now the next thing we're going to be learning about is break statements. So this is essentially a shortcut to getting the program execution to break out of a while loops clause early. So let me show you. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say while true, print what is your name, okay? And then I'm going to say name is equal to input. I'm going to leave that as it is. And then I'm going to say if name is equal to your name, break. Alright, and then at the end, I just wanted to say, let's say print okay, just okay. Alright, that's good enough. Let's just run this module, and then I will explain to you what exactly is happening. Alright, so ask me for my name. Let's say Gen Z Coders again. Right? Again, it asks me for my name. I say A, B, whatever. And then at the end, I just say your name. And it terminates. It says okay, and it just ends. Alright? So, again, now here you might think, what's the difference between doing this and this? Why do I need the break variable? Now, the break function. Now, of course, you can do it this way as well. And you can say, while my name is not, whatever, right? But essentially, what's happening over here in this one, I have not actually given a condition, right? Previously, I had given the condition that name, I'd given this condition, right? Name is not equal to your name, right? So that could be technically proven to be false. Now over here, I've just said while true, and obviously true is definitely going to be true. If this is my condition, this part where I've said true, obviously true is going to be true forever. There's no end to this thing, right? So if I hadn't put this, let's say if I hadn't put this part, right, and it was just this, then what would happen is that it would just constantly ask me, what is your name, what is your name, what is your name, and there would be literally no end to this program. It would continue on forever. What this if statement over here is doing is that it's giving a clause. Now it's saying that, okay, fine, that's alright, but if the name is equal to your name, just end the program, terminate this while clause, while statement, just stop the loop, alright? And then after we say break, the program execution is going to move on. It's going to stop the while statement execution, and it's going to move on to this print statement, and that is why it ends. All right. Okay, so now let's look at continue statements. So like break statements, continue statements are used inside loops. So when the program execution reaches a continue statement, it immediately jumps back to the start of the loop and it reevaluates the condition. And yes, this is exactly what also happens at the end of a loop. So let's try an example. Let's actually see why this continue loop would be necessary. Right, so let me create a new file again. And let's say while true, right? And let's create a, well, let's say print first. Let's say, what is your name, right? And here I can say, name is equal to input and the parentheses. Now, what I can say is that if name is not equal to, let's say, Gen Z coders, then what we want the program to do is continue. Alright? And then the next thing that I would do is I would say else. Or actually, I would just continue with this and I would say else. Print what is the password, right? And then I would say password is equal to, let's say input, and then the parentheses again, right? And let's say over here, let's say if password is equal to, again, let's say password is yellow, then what we do is we say break. Okay, I'm not gonna actually put the, yeah, okay, that seems fair enough. And then over here outside, what I'm gonna say is print complete. Or actually, we can change this to access granted. Alright, now let's run the program and let me show you what happens. Okay, let's save this as while function. Oops, that. Yeah. See, the indentation is pretty important. That's actually one of the problems that I just had. Okay. So here is our interactive shell. Okay, so here it asks me, what is your name, okay? So I'm going to say for now, Gen Z coders, right? And that is the true, right? Now it asks me for a password, and let's say yellow. It breaks and it says access granted. Now let's run the program one more time, okay? This time, let's try a different possibility. So this time, let's say my name is, again, let's go with Gen Z coders. And then let's say, what is the password? And this time, let's say purple, right? It goes back and it asks me what my name is, all right? So I say Gen Z coders, and then this time again, I say yellow, okay? And it gives me access granted. So that is what will happen. So again, that's an example of the break function, right? So because I didn't say yellow this time, it didn't break. The while loop continued, right? Now let's look at the continue function. So let's run this program again, okay? And let's say this time, instead of saying Gen Z coders, let us say, how about hi, right? And it continues to ask me my name over and over again. Now, yeah, let me show you. Let's say hello, hey, whatever, right? Then at the end, I say Gen Z coders, and it moves on to ask me the password. Okay, now let me explain this to you. Right, so here, what happens is, let me explain to you why the continue code is necessary over here. Now let's say I hadn't put the continue code over here, right? Let's say I hadn't put this part. What would happen is that regardless of what the name was, the computer or the program, it would have asked the person for the password. Now, usually what happens, like, now this is just an example, this is what I would usually do. So if I have a computer, first it would ask me for my username, right? If my username is correct, then it would ask me for the password, alright? So if my username is, like, if my username is on the computer, if it's a registered ID only, then would it ask me for a password, right? And this is exactly kind of the idea that I've taken, right? So that's exactly what happens. Now, if I don't put this continue, what's going to happen is that it's going to ask me for my name. And regardless of whether or not my user is stored or registered in that program, it will still ask me for the password. So when we say continue, what's going to happen is that from this statement itself, right, if the name is not equal to Gen Z coders, it will directly go back up and start reevaluating this condition. It'll reevaluate the condition right from here. Like, if this condition is not met, it will again go back to the top. If the continue statement wasn't there, it would go from name, then it would directly skip to password. Password, it would go to the end. Now, only if the password was incorrect, it would go back over here. It wouldn't look at whether the name was right or wrong, right? So that's exactly kind of where a continue function would be necessary, would not even necessary, like preferred often actually, and that's where we would use a continue function. Alright, now the last function I want to talk about is the for loop and the range function, right? So the while loop keeps looping while the condition is true. What the for loop does is it looks at a specific number of times to repeat the code. Now, I don't know how many of you have watched my Scratch videos, or if you guys have ever experimented with Scratch even. But basically, on Scratch, there are these code blocks, and one of them says repeat, while the other one says repeat until. Now, the repeat until, repeat dash number of times, that's the second one. And that is exactly what the for loop does. It says repeat these many number of times, right? So that's kind of what a for loop is. So in a for loop, we always include the word for, a variable name, the in keyword, a call to the range method with up to like 3 integers in the parenthesis, a colon, and an indented block on the next line. Right? So let's look at an example. This is going to be pretty simple actually, not that complicated, I hope. So let's say for I in range, let's say 5, right? Print Gen Z coders. Okay, now let's run this program. Okay, now if we scroll up, this is almost, this is almost exactly what the while loops, the first program that we created, that's what the first program output was, right? It gave us Gen Z coders 5 times. And this for loop is doing the exact same thing. Now, that's because even in the while loop, we almost set a condition that had specified a value. Now over here, what the for loop is doing is it's literally specifying that do this for 5 times. Like, I don't care if it's less than 5, greater than 5, no. Just do it for 5 times, right? And that's exactly why Gen Z coders has been printed 5 times. Now, of course, again, it may be, you really, during a program, often you don't want to like print, like if it's a game or something, you usually don't print a certain word like 5 times or whatever. But the for loop is often handy when you need to repeat a certain like function. So let's say you want to ask the person something 5 times, or if you want someone to input something 5 times, right? Like maybe a sequence or something like that. But whatever the case, it's very important that you, the for loop is pretty important because it's like a repeat loop, and repeat loops are efficient in coding languages because instead of like copy pasting the code a certain number of times, you can just use the for loop instead, right? So again, I've been saying this in a lot of my videos actually, but in case you don't understand some of these, minor problems, if you have like minor problems or if you don't understand why exactly they're used, don't worry. All of these will be like, hopefully I'll be able to explain them to you in the following videos when we actually make programs that are going to need these functions, right? Right now, these are just some sample programs, some examples that I can show you. But in the future, in the next few videos, I will be showing you how to actually make a program using all of these functions, right? And that's where these come in handy. Well, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that you learn plenty. So I'll see you in the next video. Happy coding!